Dear new students, welcome to Aalto University. I have said many times that this is my favorite day of the academic year. So much new energy that really makes this place what it is at its best. And once more, I say, this is my favorite day of the academic year, even though it would have been even much better to see you in person in this room. I know that the spring has been demanding and stressful for many of you, and I truly admire your talent, strength and stamina that you demonstrated along your way here. So really, congratulations. We also know that the autumn, its events and teaching arrangements will be a bit different from many autumns before. Still, I know that Aalto community is even at times like this enabling and caring. Well-being of ourselves and others is our key joint effort. University, universitas in Latin, means something like comprehensive entity, but it doesn't mean it in an arrogant sense that we have it all. Rather, the core lies in connections that we have within the community and also outside. Windows and doors are much more important than the walls and the roof. We seek to educate people capable of building a sustainable future. What it requires could be many things, I believe, such as radical creativity or entrepreneurial mindset, which are some of the cross-cutting themes of this university. But maybe the most fundamental thing lies in Aalto values. Courage, be open, try new things, new combinations, dare to think and also to speak up. Collaboration. It's very rare that anyone can make a true difference alone. Responsibility. Where there's power, there needs to be wisdom to use it for good purposes as well. We offer uniquely multidisciplinary education combining arts and science, technology and business. I hope that you take the full advantage of that, not only through courses from various disciplines, but also by networking with people representing different fields and areas. Here in Aalto, you as a member of community have a lot of freedom. And as always, responsibility pairing it. Our way of working is really based on tight collaboration with you, with our students. Aalto would not be the same without your input. I really appreciate your upcoming efforts also in that dialogue. Aalto University is a community that builds on inclusion, diversity and a multitude of approaches. It's really good to have you here. There's no one right way of being a member of this community, but many. Once more, all the best for the coming years, including this year, and welcome to Aalto University.
Dear Aalto students, warmly welcome to new student orientation on Student Services and Wellbeing. It's year 2021, and here at the studio we have people from the services, but most of all we have a student who started his studies last year in 2020. Emek, welcome.
Thank you. I remember like yesterday when I found out that I got into Aalto, and I was really happy. Yeah.
Tell me a bit about it. How did it feel like?
Actually, I was at home during that time, sitting on my bed and reading the email from my phone. And at first I was like shocked, like, what? And then yeah, and then happiness. Yeah, I'm happy.
And then everything changed. We had the COVID-19 outbreak and teaching remotely and even the orientation was remotely. Tell me a bit about that.
Oh, yeah. After all, I had really mixing feelings because you didn't know what's gonna happen. I wasn't sure. I didn't know if I had to study from my home country or if I'm able to come to Finland. But luckily I got here, so yeah, I'm happy.
How did you meet the other students? How did you get to know the other students?
Oh yeah, we had meetings in a small groups, so face to face. It was really nice to get to know people and see them. Like, yeah, it was really important to get to know each other. Yeah.
Let's take a look at the short video about the first days at the university. So actually it seems like you were the one helping the others to get to know one another.
Yeah, you can say so. I'm quite outgoing person, and I got friends really quickly. So yeah, but I thought that maybe Finnish people are a little bit shy. So, but yeah, you have to give some time and some space. Then yeah, because I'm friends with those guys. So yeah, all good.
That sounds so great. But what about the studies then?
Oh, studies, yeah, it's different. And the pace of studies is quite fast and challenging, and there is a lot to do. So there is a lot of choices that you have to do, and you have to take responsibility about your studies and about your life. So, but thank God we have been talking with my friends about time management and take care of yourself and so on. So it has been helpful to have a dialogue with friends. So yeah, because we can learn from each other. So it's really good. Yeah.
Actually, we have one of your friends sharing his experiences. Let's take a look at the video.
moikka!
Moi!
Sori, mä oon laskarissa taas myös, mulla on hirveä kiire.
Mut tuut sä illallis mökkiin?
Mä en tiedä vielä.
Et siis tuu meidän kaa.
No, mulla on noi laskarit ja sit mun pitäis käydä vielä salilla ja kaikkea muutakin hommaa.
Ai tarkoitat sä sitä tenttiä?
Joo.
Siis koko meidän jengi tulee sinne.
No, kai mä sit tuun.
Yes.
Ehkä.
Seiskalt. No, nähdään ehkä.
Joo,
Illan
katsotaan. Moikka! Milloin tän tentin vois sit uusia?
No kyllä sä tietysti voit tän uusia, jos sä haluut, mutta että ehkä sun kuitenkin kannattaa vielä miettiä, onko se ihan tarpeellista. Että mun mielestä sä sait kyllä tästä ihan hyvää arvosanaa.
Musta tuntuu, että mä en vaan millään kerkeä olemaan kaikessa mukana ja samalla vielä opiskella hyvin.
Mä ymmärrän ton. Se nostaa kuitenkin sun stressitasoja aika paljon, jos sä uusit tän tentin, että niin kuin sun tavallaan tason tähän näin. Et tavallaan,
No, ehkä toi oli kuitenkin ihan hyvä toi mun tulos siitä tentistä.
Hei! Älä nyt sitä enää mieti. Hyvinhän se meni. Ihan superhyvin. Oisin mäkin voinut lukea enemmän.
Ja siis ensi kerran voitaisiin vaikka lukea yhdessä.
Hei, toi olisi hyvä.
Joo, siis sopii.
So that was your younger friend's experience. How does it look like to you?
As we saw, we have different situations going on in life. So yeah, you have to make choices, and it's really challenging. It can be. So it's not easy to make choices because there is so much going on. School, your personal life. You have especially if you don't have so much time for school, then you might get a not so good grades. So it's challenging, but it's really good. Again, have a dialogue with each other. So and you can help each other out because we need each other. So it's really important to be there for each other. Yeah.
How about remotely? How about studying remotely?
Oh, it's challenging. It's really challenging, but luckily I had really good tips for that too. So yeah.
Me ihmisethän ollaan hyvin sosiaalisia olentoja, sehän me tiedetään. Koronavuonna tämä on tullut aika lailla haastetuksi tämä meidän sosiaalisuus. Yhtäkkiä ollaankin aika paljon iteksemme. Tämmöisissäkin oloissa voimme aina oppia itsestämme ja siitä, mikä meille toimii opiskeluissa. Pari asiaa mulla ainakin tulee mieleen. Yksi niistä on rutiini. Me tarvitaan sitä kaikissa oloissa, mutta mä uskon, että me voidaan myös oppia sitä ilman, että meillä on aina se fyysinen paikka, mihin me ollaan menossa. Ja toinen asia, mikä mulla tulee mieleen, niin me tarvitaan jotain semmoista palautetta siitä meidän tekemisestämme. Ehkä me ei tarvitse aina olla niitä kavereita ympärillä antamassa palautetta. Tällä videolla mä uskon, että te saatte ideoita tähän, miten te oppisitte kuulostelemaan itseänne opiskelijoina. Oletteko joskus huomannut, että olette niin uppoutuneita opiskeluun, että ajan taju vallan katoaa? Tai ehkä te olette huomannut päivän päätteeksi, että ette oikein enää näe metsää puilta. Tämä on ihan normaalia, tämmöistä opiskelua välillä on. Me tarvitaan välillä jonkinlaista palautetta muilta, ikään kuin mittatikku tai vertailukohta, että ollaanko me jotenkin kärryillä siinä tekemisessämme. Mutta onneksi tämmöistä palautettahan voi antaa myös ilman, että ollaan fyysisesti kaikki paikalla. Ehkä Zoom ja Teams kuitenkin on ihan riittävän hyviä myös tällaiseen. Sinänsähän siinä ei ole mitään pahaa, että haluaa vasiten joskus oikein uppoutua ja jopa metsästää tämmöisiä flow-kokemuksia. Ehkä me kaipaamme semmoista flow-virettä. Se on ihan ymmärrettävää ja se on mun mielestä osa sitä opiskelemisen iloa. Mitä mä haluaisin teidän oppivan, että te kuuntelisitte itseänne siinä ja olisitte sillä tavalla rehellisiä itsellenne, että mitä te kaipaatte. Oppiminen on se yksi asia, missä me ei voida ikinä tulla valmiiksi, eikä meidän tarvitsekaan. Oikeastaan se onkin hyvä oppia kysymään itseltään ihan siellä arjessa tämmöisiä tärkeitä kysymyksiä. Mikä mua kiinnostaa? Mistä mä saan iloa tänään? Eli että se opiskelu ei olisi vaan sitä velvollisuuksia, vaan se olisi myös sitä, että oppista nauttimaan siitä. Se mikä siinä auttaa on, että oppii just siellä arjessa semmoista tietynlaista joustavuutta. Voi ehkä kysyä, että onko tänään semmoinen luova päivä, on idearikas olo, silloin seurata sitä oloa. No entäs jos onkin sitten semmoinen hyvin rutiininomainen fiilis, no silloin se on hyvä seurata sitä, että tekee vaikka laskuharjoituksia. Että viikon sisälläkin voi olla hyvin erilaisia päiviä, että se oppimisen ei tarvitse olla yhdestä puusta veistettyä. Ja tämmöisiä kysymyksiä voi toki myös kaverien kanssa oppia kysymään. Mutta pointtina on kuitenkin se, että siinä on semmoista joustavuutta ja että on myös tärkeää oppia säätelemään sitä meidän tekemistä. Se on hirveän tärkeää meidän kaikkien hyvinvoinnille. Eli mä kutsunkin teidät kaikki pohtimaan sitä, että mitä te haluatte oppia juuri tänään? Mikä teille on tärkeää juuri tänään? Mun mielestä opiskelun pitäisi olla jotain hauskaa, iloista, mukavaa, jotain mistä me nautimme. Okei, on myös velvollisuuksia ja deadlineja, mutta ajan kanssa me voidaan oppia integroimaan nämä molemmat puolet. No ehkä koronavuonna me jouduimme tottumaan siihen, että ei ole aina kaveri tai kaverit siinä paikalla kannustamassa tai auttamassa meitä, mutta ehkä heidän ei tarvitsekaan aina olla fyysisesti paikalla. Ehkä he ovat hengessä mukana. Mä uskon, että opiskelu on siinä määrin maratonlaji, että me tarvitaan sitä positiivista energiaa siihen, että se kantaa se motivaatio. Se ei tarvitse aina tuntua hyvältä, mutta kuitenkin se tapa, millä me käsittelemme sitä, että se sisältäisi myös iloa, se on mun mielestä tärkeää. Ja se on semmoinen hyvä perspektiivi mun mielestä siihen meidän arjen opiskeluun.
So yeah, I was helped by those tips, like what to do differently, like you can study happier, like study can be happier, and it's really important to listen your feelings and your moods, because every day is a different day. So yeah, like it's really important to listen yourself, and you can be happy and you can study. So yeah, why not?
That sounds so good.
Yeah.
Did you get any other study counseling, or did you attend?
Yes, I want to do different subjects in the different aalto schools. So I went to Starting Point of Wellbeing and I met a study counselor. Yeah, and she was really nice. She had a lot of information about where to do, what to do, and what is happening in a different aalto schools. So it was really helpful. Yeah, I got good tips again. So. Yeah, and at Starting Point of Wellbeing, there was also a FSHS. Yeah, so yeah, it's really good to know.
So Student Health Services.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
have
exactly.
actually Anna today from the Student Healthcare.
Oh, nice.
Anna from Finnish Student Health Services, welcome. So what is this FSHS?
Well, the FSHS stands for the Finnish Student Healthcare Services, and our purpose is to support students' health and study abilities. We offer basic level healthcare services in general, mental, and oral healthcare.
How does one get an appointment?
Well, first of all, please note that the FSHS does not have emergency services. Degree students in need of urgent treatments within the next 24 hours should contact their nearest public healthcare center. Exchange students, on the other hand, are unfortunately not entitled to use the public healthcare services and should always contact their nearest private healthcare center. This is why the exchange students should always have a valid health insurance for the period of their stay in Finland. But to make an appointment with us, just call the unit in your study town. A healthcare professional will map out your situation and assess your need for treatment and its level of urgency. After this assessment, you may also receive an online booking ticket, so you can book your appointment by yourself via our online service called Self. Self is our own online service for managing your healthcare issues, such as booking appointments, sending us messages on the Self chat, and attending remote consultations. To log into Self, visit our website at fshs.fi.
And in the self you also have this sätky. Please, what is that?
Okay. We invite all first year students to answer this health inquiry called sätky. By answering to this inquiry, you will get a personal assessment of your health and, if needed, an online booking ticket for a health checkup and a dental checkup. This inquiry can be found on your self-profile and is available for use on your computer or any other mobile device. Do not hesitate and fill in the inquiry as soon as possible.
Terve. Olitko tulossa Aallon psykologia tapaamaan?
Joo.
Joo, käy vaan sisään, niin voit istua vaikka tohon tuoliin.
Okay.
Joo. Mitenkä mä voisin olla avuksi?
Starting Pointista ohjataan tarvittaessa eteenpäin. Meillä on myös uraohjauspsykologi, erilaisia verkkokursseja ja stressinhallintaa voi harjoitella vaikka täällä. Yksilövastaanotolla työskentelyä voi syventää.
Mistä kaikesta täällä voi puhua?
Mistä tahansa sellaisesta asiasta, mikä kokee, että vaikuttaa jotenkin siihen sun opiskelukykyyn.
Kuinka usein täällä voi sitten käydä?
Vähän tilanteesta riippuen, niin 1-5 kertaa. Opiskelijat ovat alkujaan saaneet aikaan sen, että Aallossa on opintopsykologeja. He yrittävät saada opiskelijoiden äänen kuuluviin vaikuttamalla Aallon yhteisöön. Opintopsykologeja voi pyytää myös mukaan opiskelijoiden järjestämiin tilaisuuksiin. All well, että opiskelija voisi paremmin.
Yeah, I also had to get some special arrangements for myself because I had some troubles with concentrating, especially remotely.
Yeah, actually Aalto has quite good systems when it comes to those special arrangements, if they are needed.
Yep. Yeah.
And like talked already, there's much more to life than just studying in good and bad. And sometimes you may end up in a situation when you wish you could talk to somebody confidentially. It can be the psychologists, but we also do have chaplains, Aalto chaplains on campus.
Mun nimi on Jenny Vainio ja työskentelen täällä Aalto-yliopistossa pappina.
Ja mun nimi on Anu Morikava ja samalla tavalla työskentelen täällä Aalto-yliopistossa oppilaitospappina. Me oppilaitospapit tarjotaan opiskelijoille keskusteluapua. Meidän palvelu on luottamuksellista ja meillä on ehdoton vaitiolovelvollisuus.
Voisi sanoa ehkä, että me ollaan semmoinen vähän niin kuin ulkopuolinen resurssi, jota opiskelijat voi käyttää silloin, kun tuntuu, että tarvitsee semmoista kahdenkeskistä pohdintaa tai reflektiota oman elämän kysymyksissä.
Sitä ei tarvitse pelätä, kun tulee meidän luokse tai varaamaan aikaa, että kuuluuko kirkkoon tai mitä ajattelee Jumalasta, vaan voi tulla ihan omana itsenään ja just niillä teemoilla, mitkä sillä hetkellä on pinnalla.
Sen lisäksi, että meidän kanssa saa tulla juttelemaan kahden kesken, niin me järjestetään aina silloin tällöin erilaisia työpajoja tai pienryhmiä, joissa on teemana joku jollain tavalla ajankohtainen asia. Esimerkiksi ilmastoahdistus on ollut tässä viime aikoina, mutta sen lisäksi on ollut vuorovaikutustaitoja, tunnetaitoja, niin kuin oman identiteettiin liittyviä kysymyksiä ja välillä myöskin sururyhmiä läheisensä menettäneille opiskelijoille.
Olen itse nähnyt, että meidän työ tässä auttamisen verkostossa jakaantuu jotenkin niin, että terveydenhuollon asioissa selkeästi tietysti sinne YTHS:n piiriin ja jos on opinnoissa jotakin haastetta tai opinnot takkua, niin sitten meillä on opintopsykologit, jotka tarjoaa siihen tukea ja apua. Ja sitten meille jää ikään kuin nämä muun elämän kysymykset ja ne voi olla oikeasti laidasta laitaan.
Ihmissuhteista, erilaisista arvovalinnoista, suruun, menetyksiin liittyvistä asioista ja ehkä ylipäätään sellaisista niin kuin pohdinnoista, että mikä musta tulee isona ja kuka mä oikeastaan oon ja mitä mä haluan ja keiden kanssa tai kenen kanssa haluaisin olla ja tämän tyyppisistä kysymyksistä.
Meihin saa yhteyden sähköpostitse, voi varata keskusteluaikaa sähköpostilla tai soittamalla. Yhteystiedot löytyy aalto.fi nettisivuilta.
Ja meidän työhuonehan on siis Kandikeskuksessa M136 ja jos siellä on oviraollaan, niin aina saa tulla kyllä myös ihan varaamatta aikaa käymään tai myös koputtaa ovelle, mutta mitenkään säännöllisesti me ei siellä niin päivystetä.
Meillä on myös nämä papin paidat yleensä päällä just sen takia, että aina kun ohikulkiessa näkee, niin aina saa tulla nykäiseen hihasta ja semmoiset kohtaamiset käytävillä onkin tosi antoisia ja siinä voi myös sitten kysyä, jos on jotain semmoista, mihin tarvii vielä lisävinkkiä, jos vaikka haluaa meihin olla yhteydessä. Opiskeluaika on tosi antoisaa, mutta myös voi olla hyvin rankkarasti ja elämässä on monesti paljon muutakin meneillään, niin iloissa ja suruissa olkaa tosi matalalla kynnyksellä ja rohkeasti meihin yhteydessä. Me ollaan täällä teitä varten.
Yeah, it was a positive surprise that you can talk to the chaplains, and despite of your background, your culture, or your language, or your religious. So, yeah, I'm happy for that. Thank you.
How has the situation, the pandemic, changed your work?
Well, we have also started having the conversations online through Teams or on the phone, like everybody else.
Yeah, and actually it might help some students have a talk remotely. So, yeah, good that there's options and choices.
Emek, how about your free time?
AYY offers a lot of different activities, so actually it's almost hard to like choose where to go. So yeah, it's really great to be Aalto.
The Student Union is here remotely with us. Hi guys.
Hello.
Hey there, my name's Imran. I'm from the AYY board. We have...
Hi, I'm Christian. I'm also from the AYY board.
And hey, I'm Tarmo, also from the AYY board.
Yeah, we've heard that you've learnt a little bit about AYY as a place of celebration and events, but I think we also need to share some important parts about what AYY is. And yeah, I think Tarmo can expand on that for you.
Yeah, sure, thanks. You could basically divide AYY's actions into three groups. There's advocacy, then there's community, and then there's services. And I'd like to tell a bit about the advocacy side of things. So we meet a lot with different people, such as from the university or city of Espoo and so on. And well, we advocate on different matters. And our advocating actions could be divided into three groups. There's social policy, such as student housing and that kind of issues. Then there's educational policy, so matters related to teaching and studies. And then finally there's international affairs, so mainly focused on the, well, affairs of our international students.
Yeah, like me, I'm an international student here in Aalto. And maybe then I can talk a bit about the services we have. You might know a few things like our housing, but it's a little more than that. We've got a student card with Frank. We provide exercise facilities through Unisport, and we also have vehicles and spaces for rent. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll talk about the community as well lastly. As you already know, we do have a lot of parties, but more than that, we also do trainings for associations, for tutors, and in general equality trainings, so that everyone can feel that the Aalto community is their home and feel safe at this home. But we do have parties as well. We do organize some of the largest events in all of the capital area together with the Laskiaisreha and the student torchlight procession on the Independence Day and everything else that happens on the campus.
Yeah, and I think this is like a really important point I want to make now. If you're ever experiencing anything that you're uncomfortable with, that is bullying or sexual harassment or racism or something that is inappropriate conduct in the Aalto community, you can speak up, and we have special contact persons that you can reach out to. So AYY is here to support you to make sure that this is a safe community space for you as well. And hey, yeah, we have on social media, on Instagram today, if you want to ask a few questions about AYY or your study life, you can check out the Q&A on Instagram this afternoon, and we'll be there to give some answers as well. So yeah, thank you, and hope you have a really good start to the year.
So Emek, are you into sports?
Yes, I am, and it was a positive surprise that I was able to keep my dance practice at Unisport, so they have lovely spaces, so yeah, I'm happy. Yeah.
You know, we have somebody from Unisport here today.
Oh.
Kati, welcome.
Hey, hey Emek and hey Sara. Now it's time to stop talking and start actions. Go and find more information on event web pages or unisport.fi. And now we start a small, nice season opening dance. Sara and Emek here and you over there, please join me for the easy, nice dance. So we go. Small round, slowly. Hit with the hips. And win it. So we do that again. Round, slow, enjoy. Hip, hit. Yes. And in win. And once more. Slow. Hip, hip. And win it. And once more, we done a great work. Wah, wah, and we go. Hey, Unisport is a great choice for students to exercise the whole year round, starting as low as $9.25 per month. So enjoy Unisport and enjoy Unisport and enjoy exercise the whole year. Welcome to Unisport.
Thank you, Kati. Thank you, Unisport. Thank you, all you Aalto students. Once again, warmly welcome to Aalto University, to Aalto community. All the material, you can find it online. I want to wish you a very happy start of the semester. Bye-bye.
Hey, my name is Aija-Eli and I teach Finnish for foreigners in Aalto University's Language Center.
Moi, my name is Philip. I'm a student in the Aalto School of Business and I moved here a year ago to do my master's.
As you see here, you can study many languages in the Language Center. Besides the languages, you can choose speech communication or intercultural communication. And in language classes, you can choose beginners classes or more advanced ones. Here you can see some examples of our courses. Survival Finnish 1 and 2 are meant for exchange students. And you can get an overall view of Finnish language. Get to Know Finland is a culture course, and it presents key aspects of Finnish history and culture. Finnish 1 to 8 are again language courses, and they are meant for our degree students. So Philip, you are a degree student. Have you studied any Finnish?
I've taken several Finnish classes. Right now I'm enrolled in Finnish 5.
Do you use English or Finnish mostly in classes?
At Finnish 5, we are at a level where we have most of the teaching in Finnish and where we try to speak as much Finnish as possible.
Okay. So if you study Finnish 1 to 8, you will reach the language level B2. Okay, let's talk about Finnish culture a little bit, the Finnish way. How would you describe a relation between a student and the teachers or professors?
Well, if I would have to compare it to Germany, where I'm from, I would say that in Finland, the hierarchies are a bit flatter. So the interaction with the teacher is more direct. It's less formal, I would say that. And I'm thinking about that one time I had to write an email to a professor to ask him for help. And if I would have written this email in Germany, I would have gone, "Dear Mr. Professor, family name," and so on, in order to make it polite.
Yes.
And then I asked my fellow students, how do you do it in Finland? And they told me, go for hey.
Okay.
And I was like, no, I can't just write hey, that's impolite. I could never do that. But that's the way it is here. No time wasted with formalities.
Okay, yeah, there you go. So how do people greet normally?
Again, no time wasted for formalities. Go for hey or go for moi.
Okay, so very easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could technically say something like hyvää päivää, but nobody says that.
Yeah, that's right. So hey or moi is enough.
Yeah.
Okay, good. You hear quite often that Finns are very reserved and very silent. What do you think about that claim?
Well, of course you have to say that this is a stereotype and it doesn't apply to every Finn. You might meet very talkative Finns. But I would say in general, the chances that you're going to encounter a very quiet person here are higher than elsewhere in the world. So, and I think the major difference is that the silence is not perceived as something impolite here or something awkward. So if you're talking to friends and there would come up a moment of silence, like people would not try to talk for the sake of talking because silence is okay. It's a part of the conversation.
Okay, so it's not considered impolite here.
No.
Yeah.
Some things that would be considered impolite in other cultures are actually maybe polite here.
Yes, that's right. What is in general, what is considered polite in Finnish culture?
What is considered polite? So I think the most important rule is that if you enter a Finnish house, take off your shoes at the entrance. But other than that, I would say that polite behavior involves respecting if another person is talking, which means that you don't interrupt people, you let them finish what they say. It's sort of like you're taking turns in talking. And I think it also applies to letting people mind their own business.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're in the bus or even in the hallway of your home, you don't randomly talk to people because they want to mind their own business.
Okay, so that is polite in Finnish context.
I would say so, yeah.
Okay, great.
It's definitely not impolite.
Okay, so if you want to know more, go to Into, Aalto, Fi pages and select studies and then languages and communication studies. There you can see the contact information of the contact teachers, and you can always send an email and ask your questions or whatever information you need. So just write hey and the name of the contact teacher.
That's the way to go.
And then Oodi is important when you are choosing a right course. You go to Oodi and you see all the courses there. And if you find a suitable one, just register for the course and there you go. Kiitos.
Kiitos.
Dear friends, welcome to Aalto University. I'm Esa Saarinen. I'm a philosopher at the Department of Industrial Engineering and Management of the School of Science in Aalto. And that, of course, is the important thing. That's what connects us. And the idea of Aalto being to connect people and to connect disciplines, to connect approaches for something groundbreakingly forward-looking and future-making. Now, we start the term in unusual circumstances. And for one, I don't know if you are watching this from your home country, somewhere outside of Finland, or inside of Finland, not in Otaniemi. But the point is still to connect, and still to feel the significance of the effort that we are here part of. And being a philosopher, it's natural for me to think about what we are part of in terms of the mental thought process oriented great human effort to transcend what we already have achieved or generated as a culture. Meaning from the point of view of any of us as individuals, that the possibility, the opportunity, the challenge is to think beyond, not stay in the box, whatever it might be, or in the standard way of comprehending things, the world, but to find new ways to think. But one of the challenges we encounter is the fact, and it is very much a fact, that a human being, while being compelled to think all the time, by some estimates, 60,000 is the number of thoughts any of us thinks any given day. Any given day, 60,000, that's in some sense a lot, but if it's pretty much the same, or if it follows some pattern, maybe it's not so much. But we are not really aware of our thoughts, nor where they might come from. So much so that we oftentimes don't really take them forward and focus upon the question, does this thought that I have actually represent my aspirations and my intentions, what I want in life? It's that kind of broader reflection that I like this little inspiration lecture to serve, and to indicate what might be some of the benefits and what might be some of the opportunities that might, from the point of view of that kind of a thought or meta-thought, thought of a thought, have in the context of Aalto University. And let me first start with the following kind of cultural observation. I'm saying this as a Finn. I have been born in this country. I lived all my life in this country, apart from 2 periods when I, as a young postdoc in the late 70s and early 80s, spent in the US. But apart from that, I've always lived in Finland. And I know the fact that Finns don't always come across, we don't often, I would say, come across on the surface as a friendly culture. We might appear somewhat distant. But the fact is that Finns we tend to be pretty serious, meaning that the surface shouldn't be taken too seriously, I think, in the case of Finns. And therefore, as you enter Aalto University, if you do that as a non-Finn, my first advice would be to keep in mind the fact there's more to us than meets the eye. More that is good is very much a principle that applies to Finns. But at the same time, I would say it's a principle that applies to all of us. There's more to us than meets the eye that is hiding and is good. Because for some reason, something that is good might be put down to some extent for cultural reasons. It could be that there are national patterns of behavior that dump down expressiveness in some respects. But at the same time, it's pretty clear that if somebody is, let's say, 22, somebody is 26, somebody is starting a master's program in a given university, I would say it's pretty clear that there are all kinds of potentialities in this person that haven't come out. And it could be that some of those the person isn't even aware of himself or herself. But maybe something could start to come out as a result of those other people looking at him or her from that same advantage point of wanting to reach beyond the surface, not getting caught with superficialities that might be strong in some cultures in terms of also the kind of a positive effect it creates, let's say, somebody's abilities in terms of small talk. But you don't get caught in that because you want to reach deeper. That possibility to reach deeper, I think, is very much at the forefront now. At the time of COVID-19, we need to reach out to ourselves and to other people deeply, but we have a chance to do that. Even if there might be new types of challenges because we can't approach one another physically as easily as was the case previously. But then again, when we were able to do it, we didn't really appreciate it that much. So maybe this is a reminder of the fact that a human being needs to take conscious effort to reach out to another human being, and also to realize that everybody is fearful, everybody is afraid of being rejected. And for that reason, the kind of principle that I once encountered in the Time magazine, this is some years back, I saw an interview of Lady Gaga there, in which Lady Gaga, of course, her being one of the most creative in her field, and clearly a path maker, a creative, courageous person that isn't content with what's a prevailing standard in things, said that she's really making an effort, also working with experts, because she'd like to contribute to the cause of making it more normal, even cool, for people to be more loving and kind to one another. Loving and kind, you would say. It's an interesting perspective, interesting angle for something to be cool, because we know, of course, that in general culture, it's generally not considered to be cool that much to be kind, for instance. So I was quite struck by this idea of Lady Gaga's, and also I took that thought further to themes like, for instance, drinking water as opposed to beer, or alcohol, or some fancy wines. I'm just drinking water. I mean, wouldn't it seem like any culture being more healthy, humanly more positive, if it would be considered cool to drink water as opposed to alcohol? I would say this is, generally speaking, the case. So it could be that there are all kinds of behavioral standards in a given culture that maybe don't really serve the cause of a good life in the form that something is perceived to be cool. And from that angle, maybe there is more room to maneuver for somebody who thinks more deeply than just being content with what the surface presents, what the prevailing ways of thinking and behaving present. And from that angle, this new academic year that you're starting, this perhaps program you're starting, maybe that would be an occasion to challenge yourself in this critical dimension of being human with other humans, realizing that whatever fears of rejection, whatever fears of not being accepted you might have, everybody else is also having. Some cultures might have created in the behaviors of somebody else what seem like strengths, and maybe they are strengths in the real sense of the word. But ultimately, all of us are similarly human beings. We want to share, we want to connect, we want to feel accepted, and we want to grow. And that possibility to grow, because we find ways to think in more creative ways, in more generous ways, more generative ways, as a result of throwing ourselves with full force. Also the themes that are difficult, themes that are complicated into ways of representing reality that don't immediately open up is a possibility we have as human beings. And in so doing, there's a possibility for us to encourage ourselves and others, also through perhaps Zoom or some other technology that we can use in a time when perhaps it is the case that physical encounters are not so immediately forthcoming. For us as individuals means a possibility also to move forward thought-wise and humanly to some new realms that we perhaps haven't even thought are possible, especially given the fact that very often a human being forms a concept of himself or herself on the basis of what he or she has been up until now. And very often the negative experiences one has had of one's behaviors and some of your tendencies, your aspirations might be quite painful and therefore fresh in memory. And therefore it might be that you have all kinds of belief structures within you that belittle you. But in the context where you are starting with other new students, people don't really know you that well. People don't know the fact that you used to be quite shy, let's say, or the fact that you are introverted, which you have yourself perhaps felt is a negative aspect of you, when in fact we know, as a matter of fact, it's a point of history, that very often those people that truly make it have been introverted. Some of the best actors in the world tell us that they used to be quite shy. So it's not what somebody is at a given time. It's what the person makes of what he or she at the given time is. That is the big possibility. And in a university context, of course, the possibility is quite pronounced because most of the time we are dealing with things that are external to us. So it's not like, let's say, actor's studio we are part of, where you are necessarily as a person part of the pedagogical program. So to some extent you are safeguarded. In the art school, of course, you need to bring yourself out more than in some other schools. But the fact is that in any school you are safeguarded by the fact that institution wants you to grow and wants you to find specific ways for you to find your path forward with the support of others. But you are one of those others, the other people. So it's that kind of being by your sideness dimension that I think is so critical. It's one that just recently I came across in a documentary of the Rolling Stones in South America. This must have been a few years ago, fairly recently. So the Rolling Stones by that time have already performed 50 years or so together. And there's Keith Richards talking about his relationship with Mick Jagger. You could say this duo is one of the most creative in its field of all time. And there is Keith commenting on his relationship with Mick by acknowledging the fact that they are famous for their squabbles. They irritate one another or can irritate one another so much at times. And there are all kinds of disagreements between them. Their styles are so different. Their personalities are different. But then he continues and says that they've always known that they have this incredible gift between us. So I was quite struck by that statement of Keith Richards, this incredible gift between us. You could say that that's a dimension that typically can't really be seen so easily. You tend to see just the parties rather than what's there between them. And it's that between us that I think Aalto wants to cultivate. It wants to bring to flourishing, wants to help people to also use to their personal advantage in their growth forward. But it's something that all of us nourish, all of us are part of it. So it's that kind of invisible between us as humans dimension that I hope that not only will strengthen your path forward, but also will increase in your own muscles for building for others, to the benefit of all the relationships in your future years. When I think about thinking and looking back personally, I would say that some of my ways of thinking in retrospect are quite stunning in some respects. How is it possible that I thought the way I used to think in some respects? I might question. Also, when it comes to some not so happy events or some of the behaviors I might have come up with, I can ask myself, what was I thinking? And of course, the fact is that the human being can't help thinking. It could be that you've consumed some wine, beer. It could be you're tired. There could be all kinds of reasons why your thinking isn't crystal clear. But at the time your thinking takes place, it sure feels like you're thinking. So its force is quite remarkable, the force of thinking. But a human being has also the capacity to take the helicopter view and reflect upon one's own thinking and question it. I mean, we can question any thinking, including our own thinking. And in so doing, it could be that we sometimes might observe that some of my thinking actually isn't really my own thinking. It's just kind of thinking I have somehow picked up, or I've almost become manipulated into thinking whatever I might be thinking, almost. Of course, it's seldom that one would feel it so clearly, the fact that one has been distracted from some of one's fundamentals, especially I would say in our times when there are all kinds of immediate questions that seem to demand our attention. It could be some beep from some particular device, or it could be something that distracts our attention to something. But that happens all the time, with the result that it could be that you become somewhat alienated from what, after some more careful scrutiny, might turn out to be, from your point of view, your own innermost core thoughts. It's the possibility of such reflection that I think is absolutely critical to maintain. It's something that a human being is typically forced into encountering when a crisis emerges. So one is forced to think through some fundamentals. So you could say that one of the impacts of the coronavirus has been that societies have been forced to think, well, what do we think about taking care of the elderly, those that have difficulties to protect themselves, and what's our responsibility there? And you could say that maybe some of the thoughts that have come up are quite significant. It's a good thing that we have been forced to think about our responsibility for one another. And maybe on the individual level, we have lived up to some of that challenge. In fact, I would say that most people have started to think about how they might carry a virus without knowing it themselves and not wanting to pass it on to a fellow student who might pass it on to his or her grandparents, with the result that one of them would die in 6 weeks' time. So it's that kind of responsibility for others that I think maybe has increased to some extent during COVID-19. But it's the kind of orientation that I would say is useful to pick up at any time. The thought, how do I think? Have some of my deeper thoughts been marginalized? Have I forgotten something that is absolutely fundamental? This is a question that many students that have taken my courses over the years in their concluding essays have brought up. And sometimes quite touchingly. I recall one particular student who wrote about the funeral of his or her grandfather, and how impressive it was when her grandmother stood up and went to the coffin and then just said the line, "Thank you for your love." In the Finnish language, the word for love is quite a powerful word. It's not a surface energetic word in the Finnish language. It carries certain seriousness with it, the word rakkaus. So the student was reminiscing of this experience in her concluding essay, or his. I'm not revealing if it was a lady or a man, the student. But the point is that somebody can encounter something that as a thought is significant, So much so that the person might even approach what I would call the tear limit. So he or she is close to the emotion of almost bursting into tears. Thereupon also feeling certain depth in the thought, let's say, in the orientation to life that his or her grandmother demonstrated, or the grandfather, or the gift between them that you from outside think that, that's something to reach out to. I wish I would have something like that one day. But the challenge there is to see how important it is to work towards the deeper goals that might be, for instance, a beautiful relationship in one's private life, or a kind of contribution to one's work life, where you as a colleague would be somebody who is absolutely trusted because of your loyalty, because of your care for others, in addition to your professionalism. It's the kind of thought that maybe somebody would start to cultivate at an early age, realizing also from the helicopter view that that's something that I need to do at all times, but it's a great time to start it. Now that I'm young, now that I've just started the master's program, this is the time to give thought to the question, what kind of colleague do I want to be one day? Because if I want to be the kind of colleague that uplifts everybody in the team, then this is a great time to start to do it, because a human being easily gets stuck with whatever behavioral patterns he or she might have adopted. And very often those behavioral patterns are not really that constructive from the point of view of others. But as you are young, your patterns of behavior de facto have not yet been fixed. Of course, it could be that there is a clear pattern. For instance, because of the fact that you've always been fairly shy. It could be that you've been pretty introverted. You feel a little bit physically clumsy. This is possible all. But no matter what somebody is at a given time, of course you can move forward with something. You can come up with micro changes in the kind of direction where you want to go. But that requires for you to think, where is that something where you do want to go? So the second point I like to express here, in addition to the point of there's more to us than meets the eye, that is good. The other thought I like to leave with you, and my desire, my hope is that it would live in your heart, this thought that better thinking is the road to better life, calls for better thinking. But it's you who need to do the thinking. So the thinking might be thinking that concerns some specific themes in specific topics, or something that pertains on a given field of human activities. But everything ultimately comes back to what we are as human beings. That's the operating system. But the operating system that you have isn't yet fixed. You can make adjustments here and there. You can look at people around you. You can look at your grandparents perhaps and think, what's so admirable in the way that they have lived their lives. Or somebody else. It could be a fictional character. It could be somebody you meet the first week who is so different from you, but you engage in the dialogue because you want to learn about life from that person. And you do that with the kind of warmth, with the kind of kindness in your orientation. that encourages the person to move towards you in that same way. So better thinking, leading and opening the road to better life. That's a thought I'd hope you to have in your heart as you move forward. When it comes to one's philosophy of life, in the real life, when it comes to the deeper thoughts that guide our actions, as opposed to just philosophies that we might be able to express in words, I find it quite useful to think in terms of specific examples or stories I might have heard. I quite often play some incidents that I've personally experienced or somebody else has experienced and related to me in my mind with quite considerable mindfulness. Just like you could say a musician might want to go back to some particular melody and find new nuances in that familiar melody. So one such story that I like to share that to me has been quite significant over the years relates to one friend of mine I came to know in the early 90s through my special lady, whom I called the Queen. She's the woman of my life, and we've been together for 35 years. But she knew the wife of the then rally champion Ari Vatanen, Rita Vatanen, because they used to be colleagues, my special lady Pipsa and Rita. So we came across one another one evening in Helsinki. They didn't live in Finland, but they happened to be in Helsinki. So they came over to our place. We had twin boys that were, I think, 3 at the time. My mother was there with them. And it made quite an impression on me when the first thing that the rally driver wanted to do, I mean, he was such a big hero. He was the world champion. When he came to our place, the first thing he wanted to do was to see our sleeping children. It was quite, I think, touching. And because when you look at children as they're sleeping, I think you see to the beauty of life, to the promise of life, and also to how vulnerable it is. Then we started to talk, and obviously I was interested in his rallying career. It's been a big thing for Finns since my childhood. I mean, Finns haven't made it in many sports. Football, for instance, we haven't really made it. Basketball, we haven't really made it. But rally driving, now of course it's been also Formula One. But it's in those days it was rally driving. So he was a national hero. So I was quite interested in his rallying achievements, and he's there talking about his World Championship and Paris-Dakar victories. But then he said one of the biggest moments took place here in Finland, in the Finnish rally, that the Finnish drivers, of course, particularly appreciate. I mean, you drive on these dirt roads that are very fast there along beautiful Finnish countryside. So he said, I've come to know so many people over the years. And for instance, there was a family I came to know that lived very close to one of my favorite stages, the stage of Myhimpää. That was the name of the stage. And their house was very close to the road itself. So I came to know the family who had 2 boys in wheelchairs, the boys, and watch the rally cars as we drove past there. And so I came to know this family. And one year as I was testing out, I was surprised to notice that the boys were not there by the post box where they usually were, watching us also when we were testing out. But I didn't have time to find out what's going on. So during the rally itself, we had a service place pretty close to where the boys lived. So I came to the service place, got out from the car. There were villagers watching our team to operate, so I went to talk to the villagers. And I remembered Kimmo and Pasi, the boys, asking, I wonder how they are doing. Didn't see them as we were testing out here, and the villagers said, haven't you heard, Ari? Kimmo and Pasi are dead. They died the previous year. They had MS disease, where your muscles gradually collapse. And first, the other one had died, and pretty soon after that, the other one, the boys were dead. But the rally continues, so Ari said I went back to the car and started to drive towards the stage, one of my favorite stages. But before you come to the stage, you pass the house of the boys. And I see from a distance that this time there's just one person there by the post box. And this person is the father of those two boys. So Ari said, I thought this is a man I cannot pass by. And because you just have to announce yourself there at the start line within a time window, so you have some half a minute maybe extra time there. So 20 seconds. So Ari said I stopped by the father, who said, maybe you have heard what has happened to Kimmo and Pasi. Thanks a lot for those postcards that you would occasionally send. And particularly what you did during the rally, when you would drive here and from the rally car wave to the boys. Always gave so much strength. But now that the boys are gone, I would have the final request, which is if you could on that next stage, dedicate your driving to the memory of our boys. Said the father and started to cry. Ari said, I left the crying father and started to cry myself hysterically. We came with my Swedish co-driver to the start line a couple of kilometers from where we had met the father, me still crying. If you think about this scene, this rally car coming to the start line, this huge engine roaming. Seconds counting, and inside the rally car, world champion crying hysterical. It's an incredible thought. Ari said we were driving with Mitsubishi, which was still being developed, so it wasn't really competitive. It was too heavy, and we were not competing for victory as a result. But as it was time to go, it happened what sometimes does happen, that you somehow reach a higher level. The feeling is that you drive on tracks. That's the internal feeling. So as it was time to go, that's how I drove. And did the best time that year in Myhimpää. That's one of the finest moments of my rallying career. Now, so somebody, when encountering something like what this story depicts, could react by saying that that's a great story. In fact, that's how I would myself go about if I would be myself a world-class rally driver. I mean, you can encounter something uplifting, something elevating, something great. and think that if you would be living the kind of living that particular person there did, you would do the same, but you are not living that kind of living. You could say, well, that's one way to think, but it doesn't really sound very honest. The fact is what we are, of course, is a function to some extent of the context in which our life takes place. So if the context would be different, we would be as human beings different as well also, but that's not the only factor. Another factor is what you are yourself from within and what you from within bring to any context. So in any context, somebody can be more generous or less generous, less caring or more caring, more self-centered or less self-centered. One can be more systems intelligent or less so, understanding the whole in which you are part. So as the new academic year starts, maybe it's your first year in Aalto, maybe it's your first year in Finland, but it's the first year of this part of your life, this era, and it's one where you could, in addition to the cognitively challenging, professionally beneficial ways of moving forward, in addition to that, move forward with your entire way of being a human being with others. And of course, you can be in that realm more caring. You can be more generous. You can be somebody who understands the whole more or less. But I would say that if you search within, you observe that it's the more that you want to be. So good luck on your journey forward.